Hey, today we're going to talk about the top 4 risks you're going to face in retirement. Now, the question I have for you is, are you prepared for a 20-year vacation? Yeah, 20-year vacation. Because you see, folks, that's basically what it is. You're no longer going to have a job. You're no longer going to have to go to work. You're now on vacation. Now, here's an interesting question. Do you spend more money on weekdays or weekends? Well, here's the facts. Most people spend more money on weekends, and guess what? Every day in retirement is a weekend. So this story about living on less money when we hit retirement is really not a good one. We want to build the lifestyle. We want to be able to live the lifestyle we become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation out beyond yours and your spouse's life expectancy. And then you want to pass your money on in the most tax favored way possible. But there are a few road mines that'll come up inside of there that can cause you a lot of problems. 40% of retirees in the US are fear running out of money more than death itself. Nearly 50% of Americans age 55 and plus have no retirement savings at all. My name is James Johnson, and I've been a wealth advisor for over 21 years now. I've been in my own business for well over 40 years. I'm an ex-Marine, really no such thing. I'm top of the table for MDRT, and MDRT is the oldest and most prestigious financial planning institution in the world. It's a $1 million roundtable. If you qualify for them, you're in the top 5% of all planners in the world, and if you're top of the table, you're in the top 1%. I was a master lead advisor for a guy named Ed Slott for more than 9 years, which means I know a lot about qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, Roth IRAs, etc. Father of 2, and a Rotarian. And my number one passion is live like you're going to die tomorrow and plan like you're going to live forever, because you just might. My expertise lies in retirement, estate planning, and saving businesses taxes. Now, you're going to face 4 major risks in retirement and several others, but there's going to be 4 major ones that are going to come up. The first risk you're going to have is inflation, and it's something that you can almost count on. Is there deflation? Sure, there have been deflationary periods of time throughout history, but for the most part, we can count on the fact that there will be inflation. Over a 20-year retirement, a 3% annual inflation can reduce the purchasing power by more than 50%, significantly impacting retirees on the fixed income. So here is some charts with regards to U.S. inflation over time and what that looks like. The core CPI inflation down to 3.9%, but still way above 1993 and 2020 levels. In other words, inflation was way up there, and it's a little bit lower than it was before. Just think about it. In our current administration, right now we're in January of 2025, about to change administrations. But if you went back 4 years ago, what was the price of a gallon of gas? What is the price of a gallon of gas today? How much groceries could you buy with $100? Did you walk out with several bags or 2 bags or less? Inflation is as violent as a mugger, as frightening as an armed robber, and as deadly as a hitman, Mr. Ronald Reagan. Inflation is one form of taxation that can be imposed upon without legislation. Milton Friedman. I think we just learned that. I think we just went through that period of time. Inflation is when you pay $15 for a $10 haircut you used to get for $5 when you had hair. Sam Ewing. So here's just a chart showing you the purchasing power of $1 today as opposed to back in 1910. In 1910, the same dollar that we buy with today was worth $26. And as you can see, it's becoming worth less and less and less over time. So our number 2 risk will be taxes. And taxes happens to be one of my favorite subjects in the entire world. And I believe that everybody should know what I have to teach you about taxes, because if you don't, then you're probably being reactive rather than being proactive. The highest income taxes have ever been in the United States since the inception of the temporary income tax and the establishment of the IRS in 1913 have been 95% 54%. The average has been 57.12% for the top marginal tax bracket, and currently we're sitting at 37%. And if that's all you knew, that'd be one thing you could say, well, we're in the lowest tax rates ever. However, did you know that it's the top 25% of all taxpayers in America pay 87% of the taxes, and the bottom 75% of all taxpayers in America don't pay any taxes, or not much at all. But here's the interesting fact. The top 25% of all taxpayers in America, the joint household income, two incomes for that is $87,044. That's gross income before deductions. So folks, there's a good chance you're in the top 25% of taxpayers, and you're paying most of the taxes that's out there. But what about the debt? We have a national debt of $36 trillion, $325 billion, $397 million. And if this thing was running, you could see that in the time I took to tell you this, it had gone up by a few $1 million. Down in the right-hand corner over here, we have the unfunded deficit for Social Security, Medicare, and prescription drugs, the $225 trillion. If you put those two numbers together, we're over $260 trillion upside down with a $5 trillion budget. And we spent $2 trillion more than we brought in. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that taxes will be higher, lower, or same in the future? And do you want to pay them? And if you don't, what's your plan? What are you doing to avoid this? Because you see, there are only three ways to grow your money. You can grow your money tax as you go, tax deferred, or tax free. And the choice is yours on how that happens, but you've got to get proactive and you've got to get moving in that fashion. So our third risk is stock market. And most people believe that the only way to invest their money is to put their money in the market because this is what society is telling you. You know, there's a saying, you can fool all of the people all of the time if you have a large enough advertising budget. And the stock market has a very large advertising budget, and so they keep convincing us that this is how we should put our money, that diversity is low, medium, and high risk securities. Well, there's more to that in life. And then what they tell us is that, well, you know, you're getting an average return of X. Folks, average return is a lie. That's correct. It's a lie. And let me prove it to you. If I started with $100,000 today, and I guaranteed you that I was going to get you a 25% average rate of return over the next 4 years, would you want to do business with me? Of course you would. It'd be foolish not to. But let me show you the reality of what that really looks like. So average versus actual. If in the first year I made 100%, I'd have 200,000. In the second year I lost 50%, I lost 50%, I would have 100,000. The third year I made 100%, I'd have 200,000. The fourth year I lost 50%, I'd have 100,000. My average rate of return is calculated by taking 100 plus 100 is 200, subtracting 50 and 50, which leaves me with 100 divided by 4. My average was 25%. Yet my actual return was 0. And I'm not factoring in taxes. I'm not factoring in cost. Are you beginning to understand why actual and average are two totally different things? You see, folks, it's all about the net spending money when it comes time to retire. And when you move into my world, which is preservation and distribution, you're going to want to know this stuff. You're going to want to do things a little bit different. You're going to want to be able to live that lifestyle you've become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation, out beyond yours and your spouse's life expectancy, and then pass your money on in the most tax-favored way possible. And what do we know about the market? It's going to go up and it's going to go down, and it's going to be doing that for the next 3,000 years. And the problem is not whether the market is going to go up and go down, because we know that's the case. The problem is how many times is it going to go down in your retirement? You see, when you were over here and you put together all this money inside of your retirement accounts over here, and you were putting it together, you had a paycheck coming in the door. And when the market went up and down and up and down, I was doing this all the time. It was no big deal because you always had a paycheck. But when you move into this preservation and distribution stage, and let's just say for the sake of argument that you've got to take $40,000 a year. So if you make 4%, life is good. 4%, life is good. But 1 year, just one, the market loses 20%. How much money do you have left? And everybody says 800,000, but that's not true because you still have to take $40,000. So now you're down to 760. You're never going to return. You see, the worst time to lose money in retirement is the 5 years before you retire and the 5 years after you retire. Do you remember 2000, 2001, 2002? You remember 2008? You remember 2022? These things are going to happen. And really, it is not a question of when they're going to happen. It's a question of how many times are they going to happen to you in your retirement. Our fourth risk is longevity. We're living longer. That's just a fact of life. There are more and more centurions and people that have been around 100 years or longer every single day. One of the fastest growing segments of our population is 85 and older. 1 in 4 adults age 65 today will live past 90, increasing the risk of outliving their savings. This is the Social Security Administration telling you this. You know, I kind of liken this to this road right here. Now, if you've ever been to California and you've ever been to Death Valley, you've traveled down this road. And as you're traveling down this road, this friends of mine were out here, and they were traveling down the road, and they didn't know much about traveling to Death Valley. And they came along this sign that says, next gas, 85, 100 miles, whatever it says. And they looked down at their gas gauge, and they realized that they may just not have enough gas to get to the next gas station. So they started coasting their car down the roads and rolling down the windows and turning off the air conditioning in 120-degree heat and being quite miserable on what was supposed to be a quite pleasurable trip. But the reality of the matter is that all of that, and they still might not make it. You know, let me give you another example. I used to fly all the time. And let me tell you something. If I got on an airplane, I have like 1.5 million miles on United. And if I got on an airplane and they came on and they said, you know, the captain and I have been taking a look here, and we've made a determination that we've got about an 85% chance of making it to our location. Would you stay on the plane? So I can tell you, I'm getting off. All right. And there's really no difference. When you go into retirement, are you going to make it all the way to the gas station? Are you going to make it all the way to the grave without running out of money? Or are you standing a chance of running out? The average length of retirement for a male, 65, is a minimum of 18 years. Female is 20, and a couple, it's 24 years. That's the average. Some people live well past that. We're living into our hundreds, 102, 103, some even further than that. Do you want to run out of money in retirement, or you want to be guaranteed to have money throughout your entire life? You see, the way this system was eventually set up is that it was kind of a pyramid. And what we had over here is we had a pension. That was the base of our pyramid. That was our foundation. Because with that pension, we pretty much needed what we need to cover our bills. And then we had a supplement to that. That was called Social Security. And then it was whatever we managed to save. Whatever we managed to put away over here, that's where we got our, other things, our luxury items. But this all got turned on top of its head in the 80s when they got rid of pensions. And what they came out with is IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457s, defined benefit plans. And they said, don't worry about those pensions. You can do a good job of going out here and investing in it yourself. So now, folks, very few people have pensions supplemented by Social Security. And then it's all up to what you manage to save over here. And it's going up and down and up and down, and taxes, and the next thing you know, it's really not there. Here's one for you. You think you actually have $1 million in your 401k? Have you ever seen the after-tax statement? Watch closely. It looks like that. You see, you think that this is your account value because that's what you see every time you look at it. The government thinks that this is their account value until you pay this portion, which belongs to them. Doesn't look so good anymore, does it? So as we go through all this, there's going to be a lot of other risks that we're going to face. The government, withdrawal rates, sequence of return, national debt, long-term care, government, and shit happens. Because that's the way life is. And if you don't do something about that, if you don't go out here and you don't start addressing these things and you start getting a plan on how you're going to get there, chances are you're not going to make it to the end of the road. But you see, in order to go somewhere, the very first thing we need to know is we need to know where we are. And I can tell you, I've never met a person who knew exactly where they were financially until we actually sat down and did the work to figure that out. So what now? What do I do now? Well, my suggestion to you is that you continue to watch these videos and you continue to learn. And if you want to, you can go out to our website and go under courses, and we have specific courses for specific subjects: annuities, life insurance, Roth conversions, retirement ready or not. There's specific courses out there that I would suggest that you go apply yourself and learn more. Or just subscribe to our YouTube channel here and continue to watch the videos, continue to watch what we put up on a regular basis. Because remember, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. The second choice would be to schedule a one-on-one strategy session. All you have to do is click on that link right there or scan this code, and you can go out and set up a one-on-one strategy session. Now, folks, it's most helpful if when you get the wealth assessment sent to you, that you fill that out prior to that strategy session, so we're not spending all of our time doing fact-finding. We can actually start working on numbers immediately. And in that session, we'll answer the 4 most important questions for you. You see, is your advisor answering these questions for you? What rate of return do I have to make on my money in order to make sure I can live the lifestyle I've become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation, and not run out of money over my life and my wife's life expectancy, and then pass it on in the most tax-favored way possible? How much more do I have to save? How long will I have to work? And how much less will I have to spend in order to do all of those things? Now, we happen to believe that it is more important to avoid the losses than to pick the winners. And we also believe that you should be setting your lifestyle up to be what you're currently doing, not discounting it back. So be sure to subscribe to our channel. And remember to live like you're going to die tomorrow and plan like you're going to live forever, because you just might. Keep smiling, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future.